Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the City of Farmers Branch Study Session meeting. It is Tuesday, March 1st, 2023. The time is 4:30 p.m. We will begin with A1, discuss regular agenda items. Councilmember Rotana.
None for me, sir. Thank you.
Councilmember Williams.
None for me, sir. Thanks.
Member Lynn.
No items.
Councilmember Merritt.
Nothing today. It's a very short agenda.
Okay. Councilmember Driscoll.
Nothing for me today. Thank you, Mayor.
Onward we go. A2, TxDOT I-35 expansion, construction staging site update.
Mayor, council, today from TxDOT we have Nolan Gideon, get it correct? Close?
Yes.
Project manager at TxDOT with their I-35 project. So here we're going to answer any question, maybe a quick update, and then answer any questions y'all may have.
Yes, don't have a presentation today. Just was asked to come here and hopefully help answer any questions. I guess following up from our last meeting and a couple of emails about when the profile might be coming down in height and also a watering schedule. So I talked with the contractor and we are going to commit to every day. We're going to water every single day. As far as timing schedule, I mean, I don't really know the exact hour they'll be out there, but I know that they will be out there every single day. For the height, we went back and forth. We were discussing of getting it and kind of leveling it out. We are about to issue, we call it Notice to Proceed 2. With this Notice to Proceed, it allows the contractor to begin any kind of construction work along the corridor. With that, they will be opening sites along the 35E corridor that we are hoping to bring the material there. So instead of going in, roughing everything up, leveling it out right now, we're issuing that at the end of the month. So I'm hoping by summer, you will start to see that go down because we'll start hauling it off. So.
Thank you, and appreciate you being here. And to start off the questions, I'm going to give it to Councilmember Williams first.
So we're looking at the end of summer before that height
Yes.
moves down.
I can't commit to it completely being gone, but at least hoping that it's diminished.
that it's moving down.
Correct.
We've just had, and I so appreciate you being out here because I know we just keep hounding y'all, and I know y'all are super busy trying to get everything staged, and I appreciate that. And we're excited about the project, and it's much needed, and it will add to a lot of economic development for us along that corridor. And so we're excited about the project. It's just a matter of how we communicate that to our residents as far as the amount of dust that's happening. I think with the watering every day, I think that should help, especially during the summer months. If we're trying to, if we're not going to change that height, and we're looking at enduring the heat of the summer with that giant pile of dust, and everyone's AC units are running. And I think that's the big concern is just how that impacts all of our filtration systems and our HVAC systems. And so we just want to be, responsible neighbors and coordinate with you well. Is there any alternative that if we're looking at, say, okay, y'all issue the notice to proceed, that part of that need is not until, winter. Is there, at that point, do we have an alternative of saying, okay, we need to knock this height down? We can't just allow this to continue to blow over, those residents in that area?
Yes, I can always discuss it if we feel like that it's going to be pushed out to the end of the year. I was approached by the contractor that possibly putting in some kind of irrigation system, just instead of a water truck, we have sprinklers just constantly hitting it, So that's an also possibility. But to answer your question, yes, if we feel like it's going to be pushed out a little bit more, we will definitely take those measures.
Okay. Is there a way that we can, that TxDOT can kind of keep us updated and appraised of those movements?
Sure.
And then that way, because I think a lot of it is just that perception of not knowing what's going on.
Right.
And those rumor mills kind of get started and then it just kind of spirals. And so if we can stay on top, I know we're going to discuss tonight the Farmers Branch Night Out, and that
Okay.
would be, especially in my district, that would be something that I'd really like to, be able to give our citizens is, hey, this is where we're at, this is our timetable. Even if it's like, everyone knows in construction, and it's definitely right now in construction, that there's always delays. Nothing ever stays on schedule. We appreciate that. But at least it feels like there's communication between TxDOT and the residents. And if that happens through me, then that's, I'm happy to push that information out.
Okay, yes, I can definitely give you updates
Perfect.
on these key dates if we feel like it's movement.
Perfect. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep.
Councilmember Donna.
Yes, thank you. So I may have missed it. So we are watering, going to be watering every
Yes.
day?
Mhm.
Okay. Is there a possibility, instead of it being an option for the sprinklers, to have the sprinklers? Only because I feel like telling our residents that you're not gonna see any movement until summer is not gonna sit well. And so if we can actually make that option a reality, I think that would be best, only because, again, it's so, especially to get, if there's a way to put it on top of, somehow put it in a way where the top of the pile is what's really dusting over into some of those neighborhoods. I think that would be something that we could say, hey, it's not gonna be moved until this time frame for, 4 or 5 months, but in lieu of, this, they're gonna be putting in sprinklers.
Okay. Let me go back, let me talk to the contractor, see if
Okay.
we can make that a reality.
Perfect.
I'm curious, I want to see with them committing to every single day, how that's going to hit the pile and how it's going to react.
Sure.
But definitely, I think if he's already suggested it and he doesn't think it's going to be too big of a deal, we can go ahead and implement it. So.
Yes, because I know the last time, one of the biggest things was how to get to the top of the pile, because the top of the pile is what's going into the areas. Let's see, as far as just long-term, we know how long it'll stay, because you're gonna start, after the notice to proceed, once you start that movement. As far as, this project's gonna be here for the next few years. So what is the plan for this particular area? Is it always going to have a pile? Is there something where after this pile gets moved to the I-35 area, is there something else that's gonna be here? What is the plan for, if you can share that? Obviously, based on what we know, you all needed for the 635 corridor project, you have a
Correct.
good precedent. What do the next 3 years look like for this area?
So the reason the pile got so high this time was they don't own that right away yet on 35, where we were waiting for NTP2, which will be at the end of the month. As soon as that goes through, they own the right away and they're in charge of the maintenance in it. So with that, you shouldn't see any more. Once that pile is moved, there shouldn't be anything else in that as representing of a massive mound like that.
Okay.
Now, we may use it time to time for culverts or concrete structures, but it's not gonna be that height, and it'll be temporary use. But
Okay.
no late night works, nothing like that.
That
Yes.
was gonna be my next question, is related to that. Just because I know that was an issue during the last project for the expansion for 635. The other question I had was, I was told by a few of the residents that historically, when the other project was there, before 635, there were a number of buildings that were there that created a buffer for noise for the area. Once that area was, torn down, that buffer is gone. And so now even just the noise of anything that goes around there is pretty high, even with the highway construction. But according to the residents, they were advised that there was going to be some type of wall or buffer that was put in to not only separate what was going on in the TxDOT planning area from their backyard, but also regarding the noise. I know we don't know what's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years in this area, obviously, because after TxDOT uses it for the expansion, whether they're going to sell it, what they're going to do with it, we don't know. However, we know that there was the need for those sound walls on the other side. Is that something that we can go back to find some type of option? Because for the next, 5 to 7 years, there may be nothing there. And before, again, they had this buffer, these buildings that created a buffer between the highway and the residential areas. And again, from my understanding, they were told that TxDOT was going to put something along just the area right there along the back of the backyards of the residents. Is there any way you can look into that for us and see?
Yes, because I know in any type of noise wall or anything, an environmental study is done,
Sure.
to
Yeah.
test everything. So let me see if one was done. If not, then maybe I can get you a list of procedures that we usually follow to
Perfect.
get that submitted
Yes.
for a request.
Yes, because I think that would even help with anything else that
Yeah.
goes there, so I really appreciate that. And I think that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. I mean, the only comment I will make on that wall
Yeah,
is the freeway is elevated through
Right.
there. So even if you build an 8-foot wall, it's
Sure.
already higher. And if anything, we should get some small test of buildings coming back, making an impact.
Hopefully.
Because the mountain that's currently there is higher than any wall that's going to be built.
Right.
And
Sure.
so I just kind of look at, do we want to build a wall that might not have any real effect
And I think
over
that's
there
what the
just
study
to,
will let us know.
I mean, visually, sure, it might be great, but I'm just thinking practically, that
Sure.
freeway is so high that sound's coming over regardless until,
Mm-hmm.
No offense, you guys move on and we put something beautiful and better there. That's going to be the solution, in my opinion, that solves the problem there. So the faster we can get to that, the
Yes.
better, so.
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
but,
Yeah, it's more of a due diligence, but I agree, yeah.
I hear you. Councilmember Lynn.
Thanks for coming today. And just listening to that last part of the discussion, I don't ever recall, and I'm looking at Mark Bentley for some backup here, in any of the discussions that there was ever mention of another sound wall going up.
No, I was a liaison over 635.
Yeah.
And there was never they looked into it and there was never a wall intended to be put there. And the reason being is exactly what the mayor said. The sound would go right over it, the wall would do nothing.
Sure.
So, and plus you don't put the wall up closer because you don't wall off commercial areas.
Sure.
Yeah.
So they, when they did the studies and everything, it was far enough back that it didn't have an impact in the study. So therefore, no wall was ever intended to be put there.
Thanks for clarifying that. So I have a question further down the road. Okay. You'll probably make use of that property for the next 4 or 5 years,
right,
if not a little longer.
right.
Okay. So at what stage of construction of 35 do you begin to clean up and restore that property to, I'll say, a decent condition? I don't know what your plan is for restoring it, but getting it to a point where it might be considered to be put on the market.
Right, and so right now, basically, we've allowed our contractor to rent it out to use it. From what I've been told, they want to use it for the duration of the project. Whenever they are done, they will, I guess, clean it out, if you will.
So is that, let's just say, is that something that you might be able to forecast and say, okay, we're 8 months from being done?
Okay,
And you come to the city and give a report at that time, and say, hey, we're about 8 months out. Just want to let you know, the contractor will be starting to clean that property at the end of the process. So the city has some idea of a time frame.
yes, I think that's something I could provide. When the time comes, whenever we start winding down on that property and we feel like we're not going to use it anymore and clean it up, I can definitely relay that information to you.
Okay. Because I think, as was previously, we were looking to find the right use for that property and the right purchaser. So, and I imagine that'll still be the same. Okay. Speaking of rumors, the word was mentioned earlier. Is there any truth to the fact that the property was going to be used to make bridge spans again, like it was when 635 was being reconstructed?
That I don't know. I apologize. I don't know what the intent would be. From what I've been told now, it's just going to be used for storage.
Right.
Again, no night work, nothing along that. So.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Councilmember Merritt.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll follow up a little bit in the same vein as my peers across the table. From the project perspective, in your last presentation, you provided a couple links to, keeping Dallas mobile and the project website. I think much of the communication is understanding kind of the work breakdown structure of some of the phases. And if going forward, if you are going to start returning, I said a big if, you start returning or providing regular updates to the council, if we could have some of those work breakdown structures of the phase that we're in. I think trying to understand, you're going to be in phase 2 for 3 years. Well, there are a lot of work breakdown structure elements to that phase.
Right.
And so understanding a little bit more of that, and I did peruse the site. I'm a project manager myself by trade. I didn't see that information, so I know our community residents are not going to be able to navigate that information. And so that communication aspect is super, super important.
Right.
To allow that brevity, if you will, that phase 2 might include 10 steps, and we're on step number 1 or step number 2. So they can then understand how far and how long that particular step may.
Okay. Definitely, what we've done on LBJ, we do quarterly updates. With that, we'll have aerial photographs, we'll have descriptions of the work that's going on, what's upcoming and what to expect, that I want to bring over here. So I'll be holding our public information team the same way. We'll provide those
Very good.
updates.
That's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Driscoll.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. First of all, again, thank you for coming today and giving us an update. Second, in the last meeting, I think I kind of expressed that I was not really satisfied with the idea of weekly watering, given that weather conditions and wind, we get a lot of wind storms. So I appreciate you making the efforts to have your contractor do the daily watering. I think that should have a pretty significant impact on some of the, the wind carrying the debris and the dust and dirt and things like that. And I know this is a long-term project, so we're going to be working together. And hopefully we can continue, in a good spirit of cooperation to, work through this.
Yes.
And I understand, the project has to be done. And just appreciate, your efforts so far and that you're moving to daily watering.
Yep.
That's all I have.
Awesome. Thank you. Does anyone else have any final comments? All right. Really appreciate you being here again today.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Next is A3, discuss Farmers Branch Night Out 2022. Mr. Williamson.
Mayor and Council, Ben Williamson, Assistant City Manager. I'm talking to you tonight about Farmers Branch Night Out, which is an event that's got a short but fun history with the city that we're looking forward to discussing for this year as well. To start the discussion, I wanted to walk you through the history of the program. So we had our first Farmers Branch Night Out in 2018, and it's a play on words on purpose. We took the best of National Night Out, which typically happens in October, that time frame, and said, what are the best elements of this? It brings the community together. You celebrate Farmers Branch. There's a lot of excitement about what's going on, but this takes the more lens of kind of the whole city approach. So our first event, we like Thursdays and we like 6 to 8 p.m. is the general theme, but that's all flexible depending on how you all would like to move forward this year. But we also took it from the lens as Farmers Branch is more than just the city. So we leveraged partnerships as well. So Brookhaven College also partnered with us, relied on city staff for a lot of help as well. The parks team was there delivering the chairs and all of the logistical support to make sure we could be successful there. And of course, the college had to agree to let us be there. And so that was a great event. And what you also notice, see the bottom, this is the actual flyer from 2018. You can see the highlights. You're going to see the journey of the city just in 4 years, how much has been going on and what we were looking forward to and what's been realized. The next year, we kept the same theme, same location, same time, and same day of the week, just a little bit difference of the date. But then you start seeing the new talk coming. It's the Starbucks, it's the Chipotle, the bond discussion, the dog park coming soon, and the resident satisfaction survey. Many of these already moved forward. They're already here, they're already successful. We've already had our second resident survey since that time. Unfortunately, 2020 wasn't a good time to have a lot of people out together in close proximity, so we did not have Farmers Branch Night Out. But last year we were back, and this time we looked at a different theme. We started celebrating all the city facilities that were having major renovations and topics going on. So you look at the recreation center, everything that's going there, the library, fire station number 2, and the Keenan Service Center, all in the past 2 years that have had major investments by the city council in them. And we're a great time to bring the public in and talk about that journey with them. Again, a Thursday, also from 6 to 8 p.m. We did fold in a social media component this time, and it was a good discussion point, but it didn't drive as much interest as we hoped it would. And so one of the lessons learned we had was make it exciting enough where people want to post on their own. Don't encourage them to post. Make it to where they want to post. And so that was a good lesson learned for us. And you see, again, the journey changing again. You see new apps coming out. The trails were becoming a big part of the discussion, and new restaurants are opening, and new ones are on the way as well. And those tend to be the themes we like to talk about. Lots of great stuff going on in Farmers Branch. This is one of the quintessential pictures from Farmers Branch Night Out. So this is one of the bond meetings held right after it, where the historical park, the sun's setting, and you have stations set up. So when you start looking at these themes, there's a lot of great things going on in the city. The council gets that deep dive into it from the council meetings and all the processes you're involved in. But this allowed us to bring everybody together, elected officials and staff. So you have the policy group making the policy, the staff implementing the policy, and showing that journey together and how we get there. So you had everybody together from the council lens, the staff lens, and the public. Lots of great topics and conversation. It was also styled as a come and go as event. That was not, hey, show up at 6 o'clock, we're starting at 6:05, the presentation starts. It was more of an informal event. Come and go as you please, and you can also visit multiple locations through that model. Topics by stations, kind of like a pods. The example I heard quite a bit was almost like speed dating. Go to the topics that interest you and stay there and talk about them, but that way you're not listening or hearing about things you maybe not be interested in. So you can focus your energies where you want them to be focused. We had city staff members at each location, and we've been very fortunate with the weather in these, rain or shine, they have gone on, and it's always been very pleasant weather for these as well. We try and make it fun. We put some kind of food component in there. It's been Steel City Pops, there's been ice cream, there's been snow cones. We try and make it a fun event for the entire family, because we gotta look at our whole resident, right? Sometimes it's not just the adults that have kids in tow. What can make it more exciting for the kids? So we try and add those different elements there, so there's something for everyone to come out there and talk about. So you start looking at the successes. So I went back to a couple, I think this was the first or second Farmers Branch Night Out. You got to see all these human interactions, people being people, celebrating the city, smiling, having a good discussion, and getting to know each other. Because something is lost when you just email, right? You can't see the person's facial expressions. The tone's kind of lost. What would they really mean? And even on the phone, sometimes it's hard to tell. But when you're seeing somebody, you look at all these themes, there's smiles everywhere in every one of these pictures. People are engaging, they're having fun. It's building relationships, and that's the business we're in. Too much is lost when it's just printed words. And so participation, so the themes that we're really happy about, participation has always been improving. We're seeing more and more people coming out. It's been a proven model. It's working. It's showing that the residents like it, and it's a great opportunity to have those discussions. And it's also highlighted our ability to partner with external organizations. But there's always an opportunity to improve, right? How can we be better? So one of the challenges is, how do we spread it out across the city? A lot of our buildings are concentrated in the center of the city. West side, I think we have fire admin. It's hard to find locations that are necessarily not city buildings, but also good for hosting the public. So that can be a challenge. It is a one-time event. You know, sometimes folks have scheduling conflicts. Is there a way to make it more accessible? During the week is when we typically have it. Is it better on a weekend? Weather hasn't been a challenge. You usually know about 10 days out. We have a great team that helps us plan for that. And the other one is, it is resource intensive. We're putting a lot of people out there in places, and it's usually odd hours, not during business, because folks are at work during the day. And other than that, it's limited topics. What do we want the topics to be? So we've looked at the history. So now I look to my council, mayor and council. This is your event. How can we make it successful in 2022? And so there's a lot to talk about. I think one theme we already talked about was 35 expansion in that future. Maybe you can have a board there that talks about all the facts that we have in big, bold letters, and see if TxDOT can send some folks out. Locations, again, for each of your districts. Is it important to have a location in each district? We've done both, right? We've shared locations. Sometimes we've had more, sometimes we've had less. And then any themes or special requests you all would like to see this year to make this event even more successful. So, as a group, if y'all have any questions, but I'll turn it over to you all for discussion. This is what I'm hoping to accomplish, though, is when, where, and what do you want to talk about, and we'll make it successful for you all.
Ben, thank you very much. Councilmember Driscoll, we'll start with you this time.
Yes, thanks very much, Ben. I think this is a very important, event for the city, and I think it's good that we can spend some quality time discussing, this year's event. One idea I have had, and I've had some feedback, but I've not done a survey or anything, is possibly doing it on a Saturday. Simply because, I know, as you said, it's usually been a Thursday, but there are folks that have to work, there are folks that, they get delayed coming home, and they've got kids, and, et cetera, et cetera. And so I'd like us to maybe discuss the idea of doing it on a Saturday, and, kind of be midday, spread it out. And again, everybody's busy, everyone's got soccer games and all kinds of things going on, I understand, but maybe explore the idea of shifting it to a Saturday.
Okay.
And then if we had bad weather, we could, maybe move it to the following Saturday. We can never predict that. And I think there's advantages of doing it in separate locations and, all of us kind of being deployed to different areas like we did last year. And I think there's also, argument to be made to have kind of one big event, say, just as an example, like in the historical park or something like that, where everyone can come out. And I know one thing I heard from folks last year was, like, I was at the library with my colleague Merritt, and a lot of folks go, well, we're exploring this, but we've got to run. We've got to run to the rec center, and then we want to run to, the service center on the west side. How do we even get there? And then run to the fire station. And so having one big city event might be a way, or maybe just two locations, but I don't know if we really need to go, all over the city. That's kind of my thoughts right now.
We could also have multiple days events as well. That's something that was very successful when they did the bond outreach, is we had staggered days. So maybe this week it's District 1, next week it's District 2. That way you're not necessarily, we're all competing against each other for participation. It allows folks to explore the different districts. So if you're interested in that, it was really successful with the bond outreach in 2019.
Yeah, I like that idea as well.
Thank you. Councilmember Merritt.
Well, my peer, Councilman Driscoll, hit the nail on the head on as far as being, having multiple locations. I would be more in tune with having 1 to 2 locations. I think there's a lot of benefit in, gathering those individuals together on that. And I like the idea that you just offered perhaps about staggering the elements, having an A and a B day, if you will, for lack of a terminology on that. But I'm interested in making sure that we present ourselves as the total council. And so I'm very interested in that we show that we have all of us there and that the opportunity to see us all together. So I would be more in the camp of a single event, which might lend itself to an A and a B day, if you will.
Okay.
So that's about all I have at the moment. I know there's plenty to pick from for topics. We'll save that to a lightning round, I guess, where we start, pulling through those. But those are my initial comments. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Lynn.
I think y'all brought up some good points. I happen to like having it on Thursday night. I think folks are sort of used to and conditioned to doing things that way. I also like having it multiple locations across the city because we have a lot to show off. And I did know or notice the last time we did this, I was at Fire Station 2, but there were people who came and said, oh, I just came from the library. Oh, I've been out to the service center. That's great. People were getting out. The allure, or the lure of food, I should say, or something to eat, some type of treat, I think was good for helping to bring people out. And they were definitely making the rounds. So that was good. And there are those who want to engage with each one of us. I'm not sure if we did that as a single point event, that they would get that same ability to do that necessarily. I just don't know. But, and it might be a little harder to coordinate because where's that one focal point that we want to bring everybody to? So we would need to think about that. But, I like the format the way it is. I would suggest if we were going to do it again, which I hope that we do, that it start a little bit earlier, maybe 5:30. And, I don't know that you have a hard and fast rule about stopping at 8. I know that there were people way longer than 8 o'clock, although the food at the fire station closed down, the ice cream truck sort of closed down, but people stayed, they wanted to talk. A lot of them were talking amongst themselves. A lot of them loved getting a tour of the fire station. So that part of it was great, and I just don't want to diminish that in any way.
Councilmember Williams?
I think y'all all make really great points, but I think as a city, we do a lot of single events where we have the opportunity to all be represented and where we get the opportunity to show off our historical park, our Denton Drive Live area, and all of that. And I know that for me, I would like the opportunity to interact with the especially with the concerns that the residents of District 3 have. And I think when we do a citywide event, that, you know, not having that geographic, you know, location may hinder those smaller group discussions. I like the idea of having it on a Saturday. I will tell you, for just me personally, doing anything late in the evening after a full workday is discouraging. Not as a council person, but as a resident, I was like, oh, I really don't want to drag these kids somewhere, you know, late on a Thursday night when we're facing, you know, work day and school day in the morning. And so I like the idea of the Saturday. I like the idea of it maybe doing the staggering. Maybe if we stagger it, we can have more representation as a group, but at the same time, you know, be able to center it more on certain geographic locations, just because we do a lot of large events as a citywide. So I think the kind of purpose of this, if it models itself after the national night out, that kind of makes sense that it would be more, you know, more geographically located. So, and I do think we have a lot of assets to show off, and you know, if the weather's nice, I think it being outdoors and the food component is always, I mean, that's
You got the
corny dogs. I'm telling you, corny dogs will, yeah. We could do it at the pile of dirt. I've got a pile of dirt that we could celebrate.
Everyone loves a field party.
Yes, everyone. Right. So, but, you know, if it looks like we really want to combine together, because there are a lot of things happening in the city, and we don't want to just keep being redundant, going over the same things. But I know in my area, you know, one of the locations I would really like to look at, which is not a city asset, but but that I think we could do something fun with, would be our restaurant park. So especially depending on the timing, if we've got Red Sticks open by then. More Red Sticks. So, and that allows us to show off that area, and I think that's a good idea for us right now. I know that area could use a little added promo.
Thank you. Councilmember Turner?
I think my colleagues shared a lot of really great points. I will say, you know, I think that one of the things that I want us to start thinking about too is not really segregating each other by district, but more kind of be more a unified front. And so I think having one or two would help us do that. But maybe to your point though, there are a lot of things that I think are very specific to our areas. And maybe as a component of that, adding an educational component of, if you live in this area, this is your member. These are some of the components that make your district different, but still at the event, come in as a united front more so. So that way, people don't have to be going to different events in one night. We can all present the information in one place, but maybe have an element at the end where there can be sections based on where we have the event, where if you want to have a one-on-one, you want to talk to your council member about a certain issue, you can do that, and maybe add that component to it. Just because, again, I think that, you know, really the size of the city that we're in, a lot of the things that we do may be some issues in one district, but we talk about this all the time. There are issues that are in all of the districts.
Right.
So hearing from that and saying, oh, I have that issue too, can we, what can we do? And having those aha moments for our residents, I think is really important because they don't know what they don't know either. And so I think, I love the elements that have been put in place on focusing on the big projects to come that gets people excited. But I also think it should be a platform to talk about some of these issues and give updates like on, the pile, also on, parking, which is an issue all around our city. So I think of it as an opportunity as well. So although I do think highlighting our different facilities is great, and maybe to do that, if we do have new areas that we want people to visit, maybe as a part two, we ask, on this day, we're gonna have a tour of the nature preserve for you on a Saturday morning for anybody. And then maybe, part three of the National Night Out is this. So that way, we still have one big event, but then there's still those opportunities for you at your leisure to be able to take this tour at a time that's more appropriate. I agree for families, it's really hard to come right after work, get your kids ready, come to an event because you want to know what's going on, and it becomes a little harder. And so maybe exploring this, because it's always been on a Thursday, maybe, just like kind of how we did with Veterans Day, just exploring something different. And if it doesn't work, you know what? We know it doesn't work now, but at least we took the time to explore it. To make sure that, we offer all of our residents an opportunity to be able to partake, especially with food. It's always a plus. And then also, I think, will enable there to maybe be some type of kid-friendly type of activity so parents can have the opportunity to attend. So anyways, those are just, again, a lot of great conversation. I think the options are endless. But those are just a couple of things that I noticed, and especially last year, because I think people didn't know how to get to my location, so it was not very well attended, comparatively speaking. But people that did go were very excited to see all the new toys.
There was a big accident last year, wasn't there?
And there was a big accident, yes, which we can't control. But anyhow, that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. A lot of great points by all of you. A lot of things to consider. One thing that I've been thinking about just hearing from you all is, all of us at the same event, but reduce the number. Like the bond, yes, we had 5 events, but we were trying to sell something.
Yeah.
Something that would benefit our entire city in certain regions, and trying to speak to your constituents, people that voted for you, to help them understand what it was we were trying to pass, why we were trying to pass it. It is completely different, in my opinion, than sharing good news and being able to stand there and address concerns and opportunities and hear from your residents directly rather than what we did there. And so, yes, it's always been on a Thursday. So why not do one on a Thursday night for those of us that can go out at night and do other stuff and don't want to waste our Saturday morning, because some of us want to sleep until noon, who knows? But then do a Saturday morning that gives you have flexibility. You can either do A, you can do B. And for us, we're at both. We have stations at both to address concerns, hear stuff, but also what is the good news and opportunities that we plan on sharing with our community at this event, because that is, the key, and has been the key, is look at all the things that are going on. And how do we, as council members and mayor, address those concerns, hear from y'all as well? And, my thoughts are, I really loved the idea of, the restaurant park. Like, where are some areas in the city where we have a lot of confluence of, the districts, but we can also highlight key areas that we're trying to promote and or show off. And with a lot of new restaurants opening soon, are these opportunities to bring them out to showcase them as well. I mean, Allison and the team have a long list of people that have just opened, will be opening, and if it's a Saturday morning, why not a farmer's market type deal where we allow a lot of these restaurants to set up a vendor stand. We'll get rid of that little food permit thing that we have, so that they can come and showcase, and we can expedite this. And just for a day, but does that bring out a lot of people to really experience the city in an area that can handle that, in an area that's zoned for consuming outside and being a community? So just one thought, and the other one is where else do we go in the city? And I know we haven't all touched on what are the themes that we want to talk about, and instead of having a long and pointed conversation about this, my recommendation, should you all consider that, is let's all send Ben our top 5 things that we want to address, and let's see what bubbles up to the top.
Yep.
And these are the big boards that we're going to have there, but we'll also have every council member there to have these conversations, but also showcase and, talk about the great things that are going on in Farmers Branch, but also be there to be an ear for concerned residents.
I agree.
Does anyone have any other comments or questions or thoughts as it relates to some of those high-level points?
I like basically what you just said, and instead of Saturday morning, I think Saturday midday, because again, some people like to sleep in, et cetera, but, there's soccer games, all kinds of things going on, and we've got springtime, there'll be even more activities going on outside, and have it kind of late morning through the lunch hour into early afternoon, I think that gives a lot of flexibility for folks. And also ties in, like if we did something at the restaurant park, they can have their samples out there, like, hey, we're a new restaurant in town, try this, try that.
We got like 83, 93, I mean, let's showcase some stuff. I mean, not everyone, possibly have a stand just based on operations and what they're serving, but,
Sure.
Open it up and allow for a much bigger event that truly celebrates our community. Thank you. Anyone else?
And we're still looking at April, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
We just need to keep in mind in April that Saturday, is it the 30th is Fish and Fun? And so we've got, is that right, the 30th? Yeah.
we'll definitely check it against the city's calendar, but.
I mean, of course, but I mean, that's just, that's a lot that we're asking of staff, because I know that's a big event as well. And so if we're looking at, doing a Saturday event, we need to be conscientious that we're pulling staff. We hate to keep pulling on y'all on Saturdays.
Well, and what we tend to do is do it early in April, so it'd be before the 15th would be
Okay.
the goal. So the 16th at the latest would be our Saturday one. It sounds like the consensus I'm hearing is 2 events on 2 dates, but consolidated together, but a larger footprint, so you can still spread out, have your own identity and conversations, but you can still cross-pollinate with some of the staff and topics that are going on as well.
I think that'd be great.
And then engaging with the restaurant park and maybe one other big event going on in the city, maybe a Lean on Mike in that signature park. That might be a good place to have a great
Yep.
discussion and help people see that vision come into life as well. But kind of centralize it so it'll most likely be pretty close to City Hall, and we'll make sure there's some amazing food opportunities, whether it's from our local restaurants or maybe a food truck that sells corn dogs that everybody's really excited about every year.
Yes.
Another thought, because I think kind of what I heard is you want to maybe start all together and then maybe break up into districts. The historical park would lend itself to that very easily with the
Yeah.
different structures, where you could have kind of a general message to the entire group, and then District 1 is going to be in the Dodson, and just kind of move those around. That's very natural for events. The restaurant park makes a lot of sense too, and it doesn't have to just be one of those. But, as I was thinking about that, that would give some separation and privacy, but also the opportunity to have a kind of a general message, almost like a state of the city address for the residential community, and then breaking up and having an audience with your council members.
I like it.
I think the historical part lends itself to that very easily. And when we did have the bond committee a few years ago, we did 1 or 2 events there, and they were very well attended. And they've got the park there so the kids can run and play, and the adults can have a serious conversation. And then, we had 1 or 2 food trucks there,
Yeah.
something.
We could
So
incorporate the food vendors,
that would work well, and then have
Yeah.
space to break out, like you
the
said.
restrooms already. Kind of city government started at the Dodson House. They used to have at the barbecue pit. That's where the council meetings started. It was around the barbecue pit. So
Yeah,
that's
there's
kind of
an
a neat
idea.
way to maybe return to our roots.
Yeah. Let's have a council meeting out there.
To talk to the production staff. That's the hardest part. So, is there anything else? All right.
How quickly do we want to get our 5 things to Mr. Williams? I mean, we can agree upon that, I believe, but I'm just,
The council meeting doesn't start till 6.
By the end of
so-
next
Yeah.
week?
Or 6, what are you waiting for?
I'd say by
We'll have
Sunday night.
devices.
Have them in before 8 a.m. on Monday.
okay,
Okay.
that'll be
Gives you
fine.
the weekend.
And once we get all that put together, we'll send it back out to you all for consideration. So I'll work with Charles and John to make sure y'all get that, and we can finalize
And we
that
can-
list quickly.
Re-update at the next meeting on the 22nd.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Thank you, Ben.
A4, discuss future agenda items. Councilmember Tanner.
None for me, sir. Thank you.
Williams.
None for me.
Len.
I have a couple of things, please. One, I would like to have a discussion on front yard fence policies on large lots, and these are usually the acre and a half, 2 acre or larger lots that are in the city. There's a reason for that. We can get into that later. I think we need to take a look, secondly, at a policy for notification of neighbors when street work is being done for water and sewer. There's been some work in my district recently, and people were not notified that they needed to move their cars off the street. They just got a bang on the door. So we need to address that advance notice, if you will. I don't know what can be done regarding lawn clippings being blown into the street. I'm talking to you, but I didn't see Leo here, otherwise I'd be telling that to him. 3 times last week, I saw, these are mainly commercial crews, but one was a residential crew blowing the clippings out into the street, and then the cars just drive by and disperse it. We got to have some way of addressing this. I don't know what it is, but I'd like to at least have a discussion about it. And then I did receive a call from somebody, and this is mainly for Mike, and I haven't had a chance to call him. This came in this afternoon with a concern of pickleball at the library and the amount of noise that is normally generated when people play pickleball. I didn't realize this was a thing. They suggested that you go over to Brookhaven on either a Monday or Wednesday when they have open play and just listen to what's going on. Their concern is that it might be distracting to people that are in the library trying to read or concentrate. So I said, okay, I'll mention it.
That was an amphitheater, right, before?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I just switched the amphitheater
We're
to.
not here to talk about it.
So
We'll discuss it.
that's all I have.
Mary?
I don't have anything at this time. Just want to make sure that when we do, in the previous session, we talked about status work on what we did related to our strategic planning and our joint meeting. Didn't see those on the future agenda item list. Those were discussed last time, or at least referenced. So I want to make sure that our list, maintains its continuity, if you will. I don't know what the plan is. I haven't had an opportunity to follow up specifically with Charles on that, but I'd like to make sure that we have some regular cadence. Most interested in the planning and zoning RFP as we move forward with that, whatever's our plan. And I believe we had some action items that came out of that both P and Z were going to do and council were going to do. I'm not sure where we stand on that.
Okay. All right.
So that's all, thank you.
Thank you. Driscoll?
Nothing today. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Well, with no executive session, we will recess for dinner. It is 5:18. I'll see you all down there for the regular meeting.